again, everyone. Now, I will introduce you Mehmet Altan AYDIN, Nur Ugurlu, Abdurrahman Kocak, Nebih Basaran, Saad Hameed, Jakub Remiar. They will talk about hybrid and hyper-casual games at 2024 reality check.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our panel. We'll be touching the hyper and hybrid casual in the current year and their state. I would like to first introduce our panelists. On my right side, we have Mr. Abdurrahman Kocak. And on his right side, we have Nur Ugurlu. Then we have Mr. Saad Hameed, and then we have Jakub Remiar. Welcome. First, I would like to start with an extremely simple question for all of you. Can you actually explain what hyper-casual and hybrid casual means in the current year to our attendees here? It definitely is your subject.
No worries, let's start. Yeah, so for people listening, there was this thing called hyper casual, which I think a lot of people love here, especially in Turkey. And it were games mainly based on ad revenue, and they were kind of easy to build, let's say. You can imagine a typical hyper casual life cycle being like 2 to 4 weeks to get the game kind of running, and then you can scale it in the charts, works for something like 5 months, that's great, and then it usually goes down. Because of the market changes and because of the eCPMs and all the kind of indicators, yeah, hyper-casual games are not really working that well as they would before. So the whole market is kind of switching into hybrid casual, which I wouldn't even call a genre. It's more of a revenue profile where your game is making something like 50-50 optimally between IAP revenue and ad revenue. So all of those kind of studios, publishers are now switching into much more IAP-focused games, which means they need to have much more robust economies, metagame systems, stuff like that. But as I said, hybrid casual, in my opinion, I wouldn't call it a genre rather than like revenue profile. And it's also a temporary state, in my opinion. But yeah, that's it.
For example, if your game is not working, that's probably hyper casual. And if it's working really good for you, that's probably hybrid casual. It's like, you know, the most simplest thing I can explain to you.
I'm guessing that's the best summary of the thing, right? Yeah. And in between, I would like to welcome Mr. Nebih Basaran as well. I will have to stand up if you don't mind. It's all good. So, would you like to add anything to the matter? Because it's pretty much summarized.
Maybe you can add, like, you know, until unless you are from Vietnam. If your game is not working, that's hyper casual. And it's working, it's...
That's mean. I wish I saw you.
It's like, you know, I'm praising them.
I wish we had this conversation 2 years ago, then the whole world would be hyper casual. But maybe if you can do it in a weekend, that's hyper casual, and maybe if not, then it's not. Long weekend. Maybe.
Everything has said, I think, but commonly it's about the monetization strategy. If it's heavily monetized with the ad monetization, strategy, we call it hyper casual. And if there's a little bit IAP strategy, IAP monetization strategy, we call it hybrid casual right now. Maybe.
Thanks for giving me the mic, and again, sorry for being late. I think we were talking about hybrid casual games and the difference between hyper casual and hybrid casual. So wordings are always changing. I mean, the industry is evolving, but one thing is for certain, we should still keep getting the interest of the players, getting reaction from players with a unique mechanism. That hasn't changed with hybrid casual as well, in my opinion. Hyper casual was famous for that, the ideation phase. Hybrid is gonna take it and merge it with the casual games mechanisms, and that's all I think. I mean, I all agree with what you said, and yeah, that's about it for me.
That's pretty much it. I'm guessing like it's a monetization model. It's not actually the content of the game. First, I would like to ask Mr. Jakub Remiar a question. What are the causes of the rapid evolution of mobile games between genres? Like we have shifted from hyper-casual model to hybrid casual really rapidly. We mostly know why, but I would like to hear your opinion on that. And how fast will the ecosystem actually evolve beyond hybrid casual, would you think?
Yeah, so there was this big problem, maybe you heard about it, called IDFA, which yeah, kind of lowered the efficiency of user acquisition, which mobile games live and die with, because most of these games are powered by heavily UA performance marketing, which brings the users there, and then, you know, it's just a question of mathematics where your CPI, cost per install, needs to be lower than your LTV, lifetime value per user, and then you're just scaling the game. So this happened, and at some point the marketing got worse, therefore the eCPM got worse, and therefore people started to go for a more predictable revenue, which IP revenue is compared to ad revenue. The other big problem with hybrids, and we'll probably get there by the end of the year, is that there won't be enough space on the market for that many hybrids as there was for hyper-casual games. Because hyper-casual games could be just supported by your time, but hybrid casual games are usually also supported by your wallets. And there's just not enough players spent in the market to support that many as were their hyper-casual games. If you look, for instance, at Voodoo's portfolio, Voodoo's downloads are actually going down, Voodoo's IP revenue is skyrocketing up. So that's what is happening. The other thing is that the whole premise of hybrid casual, why are everybody doing this, why the whole industry is moving it, because sometimes you can say like, isn't that just like casual games or mid-core games? The whole premise is that they still try to look as hyper-casual because of the low CPI. That's the whole thing, because that stayed. And that will stay with us probably from like a long time now, where the game needs to look like a hyper-casual game. The marketing is like for a hyper-casual game. The CPI is then low like a hyper-casual game. But in the end, it turns into something much bigger. And it's all about UA optimization now, which is literally driving the product. It's also coming from the other end, where we have guys in mid-core or even core genres, like 4X for instance, which are implementing the UA creatives as hyper-casual games in their product onboarding to get lower CPI. So it's literally like you have hyper-casual spectrum somewhere here, you have core, mid-core spectrum somewhere here. Both teams are now using the other team's tricks to meet somewhere in the middle, where we have literally a game that is just based on this, I don't know, gates mechanic, where you like move the guy around. You've seen this creatives all over the place probably, and it's implemented into the game. So once you have this kind of fake creative, fake store screenshot, fake icon, fake onboarding, it's not fake anymore because that's the game. And now you play this gates mechanic game, and then suddenly, oh, by the way, there's base building, there's 4X, there's whatever, and it turns into a different game which has high LTV. But you already have the user there, so mission accomplished. So I think that's the biggest evolution that we see now in the market, that everything is optimized towards UA and onboarding, and UA is now directly dictating the product. That's what's happening.
So basically, retention is everything right now, right? Yeah, CPI and retention, that's working hand to hand. So for Mr. Saad Hameed, I have a question as well. In the current year, what defines a quality product in the mobile games ecosystem, would you think?
So I wanted to like, talk briefly about it. So there's actually no hyper casual and hybrid casual. I'm just like, listening to this amazing man, which I'm like, adore him on the LinkedIn always, and like, So actually this is a terms for the game industry. Like,
Could you take the microphone a little bit closer to your mouth, please? It's really hard to hear.
This is like, something very, like, it's the words we use, like, the hyper casual, hybrid puzzle, or like, a casual game. It's more uniquely when you are into the gaming industry. From the user's perspective, either a fun game like a Flappy Bird, or you like, play a deep game, like, and at the end, he said, like, now the UA is the king. But at the same time, I believe that, the content is the king always. Like, it still have the room if you have the right content, with like, which stick to the user, or someone like, like it. It doesn't matter it's a hyper casual, it's hybrid casual, but definitely the biggest problem and the thing we see from the game industry or from the business owners or something, that, what is the ROI? So this, every time, like, we see, like, either we are talking about the VCs or either we are talking about the big publisher, after 1 year, there is a buzzword. So that buzzword syndrome is actually like, driving the industry. So last year, like, it started like, hyper casual is dead. Now hybrid casual is like, the next thing. Before 2 years, the biggest buzzword is hyper casual. Like, you have to make a hyper casual. You'll make $1 million out of hyper casual. I give you $250,000, you make a hyper casual game. They killed the buzzword. They started on another, like, buzzword. And I think right now, if you talk about the all industry, you're talking about the voodoo and everything, they're not talking about the game. They're talking about the generative AI, because that's the most, like, amazing, like, buzzword. VCs wanted to hear that. Everyone wants to hear that. So I think we wanted to, like, get out of that. We wanted to, like, think back. And he's perfectly right that, at the end of the day, a right game is something which is like, creating a right value for the developer. Either it's a hyper casual, it's hybrid casual, and then, like, if there would be some, like, terms and conditions from the, like, community, or from, like, COPA or, like, GDPR, who just, like, pushing you, and then, like, you think, okay, this monetization method is not working. Now we just, like, draft it better and, like, name it better, and we call it, like, this is the real game, like, genre something. I think everything is very simplified right now, and the only idea we wanted to create better and, like, more interesting game. So it doesn't matter, like, what they are. That's what I believe in.
So basically, keep doing what you're doing and hope for the best, I guess. So for Ms. Nur Ugurlu, I would like to ask, could you please explain the correlation between monetization and retention in the current state of games? Like, how can studios interpret LTV curves to strategize in user acquisition efforts?
Yeah, of course. And big question. Thank you. And maybe just add a comment to what Saad said. I agree 1,000%. And in terms of adding value, I think you see it all the time. In every retention curve, every LTV curve, doesn't matter what you look at. You see if they like it or not, if you've tricked them or not. You lose them if you've tricked them. I've been tricked many times. But yeah, maybe, so for the question you asked, when you said, how do you look at user acquisition from the LTV perspective? If the LTV starts very low, and if you have very little potential to make it steady, I think it means that it's wrong UI. I think you've targeted your audience in a wrong way. If it's a proper right fit, then the LTV should start as high up as possible, and then to retain them, you should not trick them, you should not smother them with ads, and maybe sometimes reward them. I don't know if you guys like play unknown, but that's kind of how we make our money. And yeah, I think if treating them nicely, sometimes rewarding them, that should do the trick, hopefully.
Thank you very much. Well, it's a pretty decisive answer for a pretty complicated question, actually. So I hope it helps people who is trying to understand what's happening in the ecosystem right now. So with that said, Mr. Abdurrahman Kocak, you are an entrepreneur. You have been actually starting studios that have been that have accomplished a big deal of things. So I would like to ask for our young audience here, what should fresh game studios focus on for the initial steps in the industry in this current year? What changed for startups in the ecosystem in the last year?
Yes. As you see right now, the industry evolved dynamically, and both challenges and the opportunities brings with it for fresh studios. So I suggest fresh studios use AI as much as possible, because the impact of AI right now is invaluable in too many ways. For game design, also for mechanics, and also for marketing side, AI is now invaluable on these aspects. If they start learning how to use AI to develop themselves, maybe if they don't need extra HR, extra guys in their team. So, for example, for us, we are designing our levels with AI. Even we are making AI to write the codes for us. It's really interesting right now, and also it's shown that, it's proven that you can create good CPI videos with the help of AI, and also for UGC videos. And now you don't need any influencer to record UGC videos right now. You can make AI to do this. And secondly, I want to talk about they should use market intelligence tools to analyze the trends truly, and also understand the user preferences, and also the competitor strategies they would see with the help of the MI tools, so they can easily make their decision how to do their next step. It's also, I think, important. And attending events like that is also essential for fresh studios, I think, because there's too many networking options here, these kind of events. And network opens doors, networks brings collaborations and potential publishers to you. And you're seeking guidance from the industry veterans and industry professionals like Jakub. We got some guidance from him. Thank you for that again here. And that's all I want to say. Maybe we can add, they should, as you mentioned, they should prioritize the retention side, because now we want these users stay longer in the game to monetize correctly. That's all I want to say, I think. And maybe I suggest, lastly, they should dedicate themselves into a genre. If they develop their expertise in that genre, that means they will give more valuable products, more valuable marketable games on that side. That's all I want to say.
That's
Thanks,
pretty
sir.
invaluable information, actually, for people who are actually getting into the business. So experience is extremely important here. So stay focused on what you're doing and just try to get better, I think. Mr. Nebih Basaran, on that note, you are another person who actually worked in projects that adapted to this change. So I would like to ask you, what does a healthy transition process look like for a hyper-casual development team to hybrid casual development team? Because development teams do not understand actually what the business side of things are. Because this is a business model, right? So what do you think about that?
True, true. Firstly, I want to say that I agree totally with what Abdurrahman said. Like we are trying to soak all this transition in ourselves, and we really don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's not the beginning, it's the transition phase. And when the hyper-casual began, we can maybe honestly say that it was kind of like a gold rush. We had these devices which were touchscreen, and there were mainly 5 to 6 different mechanisms, swipe, swerve, joystick, whatever, and we could do whatever we can. If you guys remember, there was when the touchscreen phones came into existence, there was an app which made water slide down, and that was one of the initial apps. And because we knew that what we could do on these devices could attract people, it all started from there, not even with games, but something really simple ASMR. Like with one app, I remember you would just draw fireworks and it would just pop up, and people enjoyed it. Like millions of people downloaded just touch to firework apps. And what I'm trying to say is that we began with a really, really simple app in the beginning, really simple apps in the beginning, and it's evolving, it's the phase. And who knows, maybe after these devices, there will be AR and VR devices which will be bought by millions of players. But what we have learned and what we can use from our know-how from the hyper-casual industry is that we know how to aim vast audience. It means like billions of people, seriously. If even not downloaded by billions, it means that you could teach these games to people, to billions of people in 5 to 10 seconds. That's the true know-how that we can make use of. And we have to keep that in mind, keep that in our pockets, and go for the boundaries and kind of like destroy those boundaries. Because from what we knew, when we began this business, the casual game companies seemed to us like really huge companies which could only be in skyscrapers with 5 floors, and we couldn't achieve what they would achieve. And Peak Games was such a huge company for us that we could never dream of becoming one like them. But maybe out of topic, but I think what Sam Altman said about the new billionaire being one single person company may be true. Like we don't need such huge teams anymore. That may be a controversial topic. Some may say that you will need maybe tens of people in your team to achieve that. But currently, for hyper-casual companies, keeping in mind what you know from hyper-casual in terms of ideation and fast execution should be kept in mind. And we should really try soaking all in from the casual companies, what they are doing. And really what we did in the beginning was analyze all the hyper-casual games that launched in the store. And it was kind of a fun action in the companies, actually. We would start the day with looking at top charts and seeing one or two new games each day, and we would analyze them, and we would actually deconstruct all of it, like Google's event says, like deconstruction of fun was happening there. And we would actually pinpoint all the little aspects and take away what we could from those successful games and try achieving them on our games. And that was not a really difficult job, because we had the skills, we had the muscle power to do those things. And for casual games, we were kind of afraid to do that, because when we dived into those games, we thought, man, like, we cannot achieve such a huge game economy even with 5 people team. And that seemed kind of like a dark space for us. But now, I believe, since our transition began like a year ago, now that we are looking into those casual games, we sometimes say, okay, this is something we could achieve as well. Like, take into account Monopoly Go. Everybody's talking about Monopoly Go nowadays. What's the mechanism there, really? Like, one-touch mechanism. a whole lot of design elements are going in, but as Abdurrahman also said, there are tools to help on those stuff as well. I'm not saying it's easy to do, but it is achievable for a company which could transition by digging deep into those games and what successful parts in those games are, and trying to merge them with the unique ideas, as we are all saying about the transition from hyper-casual to hybrid-casual. I think I talked too much. Thank you.
No, you didn't. Actually, that's extremely valuable information. On that note, because they're so correlated with the way you put it, I would like to ask about puzzle games, because you are someone who actually made a really successful puzzle game yourself. So what is the current position of puzzle games in the industry? Like, how did they change with the evolving elements? Because as you said before, all this transition was happening and the mobile industry was having this many devices that were so powerful. We actually feared the puzzle games. Yeah. Developing a puzzle game was a fearful event. Now everybody is actually going towards those. So can you explain what changed so much with the puzzle games?
Firstly, let's talk about why people chose to go and create more puzzle games in recent months. I think the reason is simple. As we all talk now, retention is king, and we need more retention from users, and puzzle games can provide that. We can hook users, hook players for a longer period of time with hundreds of levels if we could achieve that. And the difficulty in puzzle games and why people were afraid to go in creating puzzle games was mainly because not all puzzle games can accommodate different levels, let's say towards thousands of levels, and you need that. Candy Crush has it, and many people who give this retention in Candy Crush, I think, give it after 500 level or something. So firstly, the skill to generate new levels is really important in puzzle games. Of course, again, the idea is important, because you cannot take into account the jam games nowadays. You cannot just keep the same concept and keep the same mechanism and make it on a different concept and attract more people. You can do that on CPI, but you need the, for example, Hexa Gems, the successful puzzle game, Hexa Gems, main elements to still maintain that retention. And it seems like for a really good puzzle game, the key point is the pressure point, the pressure to push players to watch an RV or buy IAPs, because as we all said, retention is king. And why do we need the retention? Because in order to push the players to watch more RV or buy IAPs, and puzzle games can actually do that easily, because if a player fails to finish a level, then he or she will need to buy something or watch. It's not like pay to win, not P2V, but you can let them stand in that level for quite a long time to onboard in the game as well. I see recently some games which take 30 minutes to pass to the second level. Like, I assume that those games are achieving something successful on the playtime, and that's why they are doing it. And keeping the players long in all aspects is really important, and puzzle games can do that pretty easier than, let's say, compared to simulation or ASMR games. And ASMR games are kind of dead. They cannot do that, but puzzle games give more retention and playtime, and they have their difficulties, but still can provide the most revenue if done correctly.
I think the humorous part is frustration of players is a powerful tool. Right?
Exactly, exactly.
So on that note, because you touched on level design, I would like to ask Mr. Jakub Remiar about game design in the mobile industry right now. We used to not value game design as much when hyper-casual first started. Developers actually designed their own games and then developed the game and just launched it out there and hoped for the best. But now that retention and in-app purchases are such a huge part of the ecosystem, game designers are beginning to gain a lot of respect in their own field, because you need good levels to be designed, and you need all UI elements to be really well designed, etc. So what do you think, what is the approach of a game studio towards a game designer in the current system? And what should game designers focus on to be working on the mobile industry?
Mobile specific, yep.
Of course, mobile specific, like because
yeah.
we're talking about level design in the user acquisition and the retention and the all that stuff. That's why I'm asking on the mobile ecosystem.
The big problem with game design, also for me always, was that in gaming industry, everybody wants to be a game designer. Everybody walks up to you and tells you their game design ideas. Can you imagine somebody walking up to your programmer and telling them their ideas? Like, by the way, you should code it like this because I think it's good. So this is like a expectation problem. The other thing is that there's this giant mismatch in the industry that a lot of people even get into the industry, that you like games, which then means that you can design games, which is the giant kind of a misconception of the industry, because it doesn't work like that. Designing games and playing games are two different things, and actually designing games can be really, really painful. Like, I mean, very painful. So game design always suffered from this problem that you didn't have a standardized path becoming a game designer. If you look even at the top game designers of the past, those were either like very rarely like a board games design background or something like that, but it's mostly out of a pure passion for something, or some kind of a, could be programming, could be QA, could be something else, but there's never like a specific path. For programmer, it's easy. You need to, you need to learn coding, you need to learn languages. There is a specific path. For an artist, again, a very specific path. You need to learn, I don't know, Photoshop, aesthetics, whatever, like people that artists, people, you get there. With game design, like how do you even start there? There's not even a specific path. I still don't think so. There's a very good school for game design, even though there are some already. But the problem is that game design gets so fast and evolves so fast that in order to keep up with like school curriculum, it becomes irrelevant later down the line because of old knowledge. So even myself, for instance, I never wanted to be a game designer to begin with. I started being a game designer pretty much somewhere there when I was drafted by the company from my university, because I was running a virtual human interaction lab for like literally Oculus and virtual reality at university. My background is psychology. I cannot code, I cannot do art, I cannot do stuff, I just do design stuff, because in the end psychology is kind of handy, let's say, but again, it was not my intention to become a game designer. And this, I think, is a big problem that we should try to solve, at least in the industry, to kind of standardize these things. That's, by the way, what we are also trying to do on our podcast, to kind of give people like the direction to go from. Because I think there's, for instance, there are some excellent books there that you can start from, that you can pretty much get into design as even to see if you like it. Because in my opinion, design, and there's, by the way, two fields. So there's game design and there's level design. Those are the two big distinctions. But then game design gets very, very murky, especially within mobile space, because if you compare premium PC designer with the mobile designer needs to know like 5 other crafts on top of it. He needs to understand data analytics, UA, art direction a little bit, UI, UX, all these other things that the PC designer don't really need. For instance, you have a PC designer that's just focused on, I don't know, combat system of Dark Souls or Witcher 3, that's his whole thing. He just needs to do that. Then there's other guy that does whatever, map system, whatever other system, that's his job, that's what you need to do. If you're a game designer in a mobile game company, you need to do pretty much everything. So you do system design, you do economy, you do monetization, you do like content progression, meta game system, everything. So it's much more to cover. That's the problem. Usually it gets specialized, so you have people that are solely responsible for the economy, solely responsible for core gameplay, solely responsible for this, that, the bigger your game grows. But still the path is kind of murky, so that's a big problem. I think we're getting there slowly for people to understand more about game design, why you just shouldn't talk to game designers and give them random ideas and then pretty much force them to implement it because you said so. It doesn't work like that. The other giant problem with game design is that game designers need to always predict what will happen. They literally always need to predict that, okay, we're designing this game and we want for it to make, I don't know, $100,000 per month in like 6 months, and that's their job. For an artist, he needs to just create beautiful art. For a programmer, he needs to create functional code. But designer needs to kind of put all those things together and even monetize it as a product, which is very hard. This doesn't help that much that 90% of the products that are created in our industry fail, or even more than 90%. That's how mobile industry works. Even more than, I guess I was too generous, probably 99%. So yeah, you need to fail. That's like one of the other things which is part of this job, that 90% of stuff that you do goes to trash. That's how it works. It's all about you becoming better and better, and this is where it gets really important, especially stuff like Abdurrahman said, that following your genre mastery is super, super important. And then you have people from, for instance, like use like a local example. You have people from Peak Games starting Dream Games, specifically translating that match 3 expertise to a same genre, just different company, and even perfecting it to be better. Because they saw the KPI, saw the numbers, so know what to look for, know the mistakes they did before, they can improve on that and continue. And this is very, very important. So genre mastery, I would say, would be like one of the most important things with game design, that you should follow your genre mastery. Don't try to be master of everything, capable of nothing. That's worse that can happen to a designer. So that's there. And then if I would have like some recommendations for people to start with. Start with things that you like and see even if you like them. So let's say if you're a student or if you're just starting in game design, start to learn about systems and games that you play and start to think about how they were designed. Because when designers play games, they work in this kind of unconscious manner that they observe stuff. Suddenly, like for instance, if I play a game now, I can literally predict what will happen in next 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, this is this mechanic, this is coming from this game, that game, whatever. You need to play a lot of games actually, because you can then reference those games. So you exactly know, like, okay, this game took this mechanic from this other game, and this was 5 years ago, and this is whatever. This is Clash Royale meta game. This is, I don't know, Peak Games meta game now, or Royal Match, or whatever. Because you literally work as a car mechanic in mobile games industry, where you know where are all these parts coming. Like this is whatever, Ferrari 1980. They use this because this produces this impact in the gameplay. And then you start to see things that you wouldn't able to see before. So this is the really important part. So definitely play the games, play a lot of games, play all the new games. Even if you don't like them, play them at least for 30 minutes so you see what's they're about. And then start to learn systems and think in systems. Because it's all in the end just systems. Economies are great, but they are built on systems. And those systems produce in the end fun. Fun is learning, fun is the engagement that we are all go for, the magic retention curve and everything, it's just systems. So yeah, if I should be tangible, one of the best books that I can recommend is Advanced Game Design by Michael Sellers. That's the designer behind Ultima Online. An old book, but very good book. It literally goes through the basics. So even though it's called advanced, to me it's just basic, and it like works you and flows you through the systems, because in the end, game design is systems. So that would be it.
So I have a personal question about that actually. At the start of your answer, you said like game design is not actually correlated with other disciplines of design, but I believe someone like Don Norman would beg to differ, right? Because it's about human relations again, while we're designing the game, right?
Yeah, like, as I said, like
design for humans, design systems.
Yeah, as I said, like, I'm really glad that, let's say, my background is psychology, which will stay the same. If we're all humans, we won't change. So I can use the same tricks in the next 100 years, I guess, until we turn to robots. So yeah, that pretty helps, because games use these things. Like it's, you know, behavioral economy, all your monetization shop offer systems, that's basically behavioral economy. All the retention systems and all these things that you have there, again, those sets mainly based on basic psychology. I mean really basic, you don't need like to be very expert in this, it's just basic systems, but it works well. But in the end, you are, again, going for the fun, and there comes the question what fun is. And there we are again at the same question that you asked there. In my opinion, fun is something not really structured, but also it's learning is fun. It's part of the learning process, because if you if you look at like all the good games, all like very, very enjoyable fun games, you see some patterns behind them that are common for all of these, that they respect the player, give him tools to play with, respect his time, doesn't, make him work literally like in a chore, teach him new things, give him new things to play with, and then in the end what we are all aiming for is emergent gameplay, which means that players now start to interact with our game how we didn't even believe it could happen. A great example would be some sandbox game, of course, like they are literally playing on top of it, but also the other games. This is the amazing feeling like we're having fun. So that will be it.
Thank you for indulging me. If we get back to the topic of, starting up a mobile game studio, let's say, it's more of a business model more than anything. So it's about entrepreneurship, and you have a lot of experience in this, Mr. Saad. So I would like to ask, what should entrepreneurs who are getting into mobile game industry be expecting from tech people? By tech people, I mean developers and UI designers, etc. What should they expect? How should their relationship be with those developers? Because not all entrepreneurs who are getting into mobile game industry are actually game designers or game developers. Some of them are just entrepreneurs, just as the name suggests.
I think it's a very interesting question, and I see myself sometimes that I ask my question, if I wanted to start again, this time would be the most the hardest time. There was really good times a couple of years back, easier, there was really no entry barriers. Now you see, we were talking all about Monopoly Go and all other games, but they are not just good games. They have really high budgets for UA. At the end of the day, even you have the best of the best game, either I'm just thinking from the Jakub spot, if I get this guy from Peak who went to Dream, and then if I hire him and tell him to make a game for me, the first thing he would ask do you have $100 million for UA? I don't have. Even I have the best of the best game, I'm not able to compete into the market. For me, I still think there's a lot of new things coming into the game industry. For example, this Roblox and Fortnite experiences. There's still a lot of value you can create from those kind of games. Then even in the mobile, I really believe in that. And coming from this Pakistani industry, which is very different. We are more kind of a Vietnamese, and we don't play like the European style. We think we play more like a Brazilian way. So we wanted just wanted to get how we can play more smarter and more our own way. I still think there's a way where you can where you can make a handful good of income. As an entrepreneur, your goal is not as Jakub said, that my first game would be $100 million game. It's a process. So if you follow the path and the process, you will go there. It's a long path. You have to make yourself in a couple of years. Okay, this is my goal. This is my. You do some manifestation about that, but start slow. Don't go for the bigger glimpse around you and the people who are at a very higher rank in their careers, because they have started from a very tough times also. They probably don't have when we have started, there was no VCs in Pakistan. No one's thinking about Pakistan as a company. So that was, at that time, it was that different track. But now people know about these companies. People know that there is money into the into the mobile games, and people are willing to invest. That is one of the upgrades. But the other thing is, it's the entry barrier is harder for a bigger games. So start slow. That would be one advice I have. And then you don't have to think here and there. Just be a horse of your own race. Don't get into the bigger publisher scams that will make you successful. No one knows that how he can make you successful. It's only you that who can actually count yourself that how you can make yourself successful. That's one piece I want to share with.
I personally adore what you're doing for your country and for the industry. So thank you for that as well. On that note, I would like to ask Mr. Abdurrahman Kocak, because not every studio has the money to actually self-publish. They have to work with publishers, as we know. So with the change in the ecosystem, the relationship between the studios and the publishers have seen some changes as well. Some facets have changed. So what do you think, how should small studios build their relationships with their publishers? Like, what should they focus on to actually make their publishers happy? Because that's what you do, right? You have to make your publisher happy, otherwise you're out.
They shouldn't work with publisher. No, okay. They don't have any other option, I think. That's why they need to start with the publisher, okay? And they need to learn from their past experiences, yes. And they need to learn their market insights. And by that time, when these studios want to work with a publisher, they should introduce themselves transparently. It's like a job interview. If you exaggerate your abilities, that should be easily understood in 2 months. So that would damage the relationship. So transparency and sincerity is the key two factors here, I think. And by understanding the main goal of the publisher, and by the way, there should be some compatibility with the studio and the publisher portfolio. For example, if a publishers looks for the performance, okay, surely, but think about a relationship dynamics in real life. If you enjoy common things, that will create a harmony, and so you can create good games with the publisher, because both sides, both parties enjoy the same thing and has knowledge about it, so it will be perfect fit for a publisher. So they should understand what publisher needs, what publisher really wants, and I also emphasize here that dedication is so important here also. If you try a lot of things, a lot of ideas with the publisher, you cannot master in one genre or one kind. So it will be really hard to find the next big hit. And also I want to tell that there will be a giving and receiving balance. This should be maintained for both sides. If one party is only giver all the time, just like in real relationship dynamics, that can't be sustainable relationship. So if you're getting too much from the publisher, or publisher getting too much from the studio, that will be not sustainable. Hopefully, eventually. Sorry, and I think they should, as I mentioned before, they should analyze the market with market intelligence tools, as I mentioned before. So in that way, you can create a market wanted prototypes, and if you keep up with the good work like here, then that will bring success, hopefully, I think. These studios should not see the publishers as financial backers, I think. They should see these publishers the investors of their success. So they should take whatever they can from the publisher. They should involve the publisher on development processes also, and they should seek for contributions on design side and also the market side, and that would bring more valuable, more marketable games, I think. The problem here, these studios, these fresh studios, having some unrealistic ambitions. So, if they are out of the market, publishers do not want to try that kind of different games. They should stick with the market trends, I think. That's all I want. So in the other hand, from the publisher side, if they apply mobbing on the studio and also does not give the transparency, this relationship will be eventually broken up, I think. Yes, that's all I want to say. Maybe my friends can contribute on that ideas.
Yep.
I don't know.
Please, Nur Ugurlu.
Thank you. Like, I agree, and I have a lot of respect for publishers because they've helped scale so many good games with amazing mechanics, and they've found the right ideas for these games. But on the other hand, what I've personally seen is the publishing boom began with the hyper-casual games as well, where you could spend millions a day on a random hyper-casual game and it already had traction, then you could spend more. And then when a publishing manager said, okay, next week, bring me a game that's this kind of game, you would produce that game for them. But I feel like that's a little bit old school now. I still have a lot of respect for it, but I think there are other ways of monetization. For example, if you don't already monetize your game properly, a publisher can't scale zero. A publisher can't scale a very, very small amount of monetization. So I really believe that you should first focus on creating a good system for your game. And there are so many other options that weren't available 2 years ago, like, game like ZEBEDEEs, like Misplay, like Mega Fortuna, so many different partner incentive programs where you can work with different companies, and they actually pay you for your users, or you pay them to be a part of their platform. And instead of doing really, really expensive UA, you do partnership programs. And I think you don't have to break the bank or sell your soul maybe to a publisher to be successful, I think, in this era.
Yeah, I think selling your soul is just for music industry, right?
I really think what Abdurrahman was saying is really, really important right now, because I think it is the time where, there is really, really time where we need to, address the relationship between the publishers and the developers, because it was not transparent. It was really kind of a one-night stand kind of a relationship we see. It was really difficult. And the biggest problem what I see was, many publishers make sure the developers work against the time. So that has been being really, really unfair with a lot of developers. And at the same time, there's a lot of developers who thinks, okay, these publishers are the cash cows, and we just wanted to get the money from them and don't want it to make any games. So on the both side, everyone has some burns. So this is the time we need to all collectively come together as an industry and talk about it. Because if we don't talk about it, so if we don't talk about these things, it would never be fixed. And this is the right time, because a lot of studios need developer and a lot of publisher needs developers. As Abdurrahman said, take the publisher as the investor of your success. That is the right person. And I think any publisher you go to, and then there is a developer who say, I don't need any upfront money. The publisher like, you know, he thinks, I think he's probably more, like, you know, interesting on those developers with that who don't like, you know, need upfront money. But at the same time, I think the publisher what needs to understand that developer are on a very small string and they are walking because they have very small budgets right now and they're exhausting. And there are VCs probably who just pushing them every day and making their mind doubtful that, you know, you're not doing the right thing. So it is a very, very difficult phase we are in. And I think game industry, especially mobile game industry, needs a lot of positivity. And we have seen that, you know, while we are having a lot of successful hyper-casual games, publishers are making money, VCs are like, you know, injecting money. There was so much happening, big parties throwing, and everyone was so happy about the mobile game industry. And at that time, we don't need positivity because everything was so positive. The real positivity we need to create right now. We need to be like, you know, stand with each other. If there would be any developers who's like, you know, struggling, publishers should come forward and like, you know, take them under their wings or something. And also like, you know, same with the developers, they think out of this mindset where they just wanted to like, you know, use publisher as their money-making machine or a cash cow. So that's really important, I guess, right now.
So the drop in the revenues actually created a thin line for studios and publishers alike, right? And my next question for you, Nur Kocak, is about Nur Ugurlu, I'm so sorry, is about that. We know why this happened and everybody knows how this happened, but sometimes going back to the basics and answering the questions again actually opens more eyes. So I would like to actually ask, what happened that the ad revenues of mobile games dropped so rapidly, and how is it shifting this fast into another revenue avenue actually?
Okay, I'll be super brief because I'm not sure, to be honest. But my thing is there are too many games and a limited amount of players, and even though the market grows, it's the supply and demand are not equal, and ad companies have to make revenue themselves to be able to pay the developers, and if the user quality is not what they expect it to be, they can't pay what's expected. So I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You guys go on. Too many players, I think.
Any inputs on the matter? Because I think this is actually basically what we're talking about. This actually summarizes everything.
I mean, like, why are we moving from hyper-casual to not working anymore?
Sorry?
That why are we even moving from hyper-casual, why it stopped working, basically?
No, actually, why the ad revenue dropped so fast that people had to change, actually.
Yeah, again, it has like it's one kind of a bucket with the user acquisition, where the user acquisition itself dropped because of all the privacy changes and targeting. Therefore, the user acquisition is worse. Therefore, the ad time is worse. And it's like one bucket. Some people are sitting on the one end of that bucket, the other people are the receiving end of that bucket. So it's basically that. But it has all to do with these kind of market changes and shifts from the user acquisition method, where everybody these days just optimize for user acquisition, because this is also the big shift within the store ecosystem itself. Like, I think we're old enough that we all remember that, let's say, featuring meant something before. That if you get your game featured on the store, suddenly you get a lot of good traffic for free, basically, which is not the case these days anymore. It's more of a, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know of like a game that got featured and like, this is like, games could literally live on featuring. There wasn't a need for UA at some point in this industry. There are games that have giant organic traffic, they just live on that, that's it, which is not the case anymore. You release your game to the world, it could be the best game, nobody cares. There's 800 games released every day, you don't have any UA, nobody cares. And don't get me wrong, this UA doesn't need to be literally marketing performance money, it could be influencers, it could be whatever, cross promotion, something, different forms of distribution. Like for instance, like Supercell uses, they don't go for conventional UA methods. But still, in the end, the market shifted there, and therefore the advertising time went down, and we still are not at this point where everybody keeps talking about all the time, where brands finally enter gaming. still most of the advertising that you see within the gaming industry is other games advertising other games within the games. You don't see that fast or that much of, like, I don't know, Coca-Cola ads or whatever kind of a basic live stuff experiences outside of gaming. There's some stuff in it, some kind of percentage of traffic, definitely higher before, but not something that I would say would be the thing that would be sustainable for hyper-casual to keep doing what it was doing. That's why it's shifting. So I think we're also in this kind of a step where our ecosystem is trying to change. There's also the ongoing battle between Epic and Apple about the store cuts. We all talk about this, and like the justification of that 30% cut that's there. If you look just outside of the West, it works completely different, let's say in China, with their store ecosystem. I think in the end, we will move to something similar where there will be multiples of stores, and because there will be bigger competition, not just the duopoly, suddenly the margins will go down for the stores because you need to compete. Like, for instance, a good example is the Epic Game Store, which is 88% 12 instead of 70-30. So I guess we'll move there somewhere at some point, because it's all part of this also like current shift of web stores, where all even the mobile developers are shifting their efforts to get people out of the stores and pay in their own ecosystem, which is on the web, on the PC client, somewhere there. We have big push for cross-platform games, which are, you know, your mobile game is on PC, on mobile, on console, seamless, all linked together, where it's kind of going out of the boundaries of that 30% kind of fee of the mobile store. So I think this process of whole hyper-casual, as it like started somewhere there, but in the end it's going exactly this direction, that we'll move to a much more different ecosystem that we were used to like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It will be again completely different world.
That is exciting and scary at the same time, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
I don't think it's possible to actually summarize the know-how that is in this panel, even if we stayed here for months. But this is our time on this topic, and I hope it helped you understand the current state of mobile games and hybrid casual and hyper casual. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you very much to the panelists for sharing their information with us.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.